Hello everybody, my name is Sian and I'm from Counting What Counts. Now today we are very pleased to announce the launch of the Insights Report feature in your Impact and Insight Toolkit. Okay, so let's say that I have been working on an evaluation as part of the Impact and Insight Toolkit program, and I've finished one of my evaluations and I now am ready to send it to Arts Council. So I'm just going to show you how I go about doing that. So first things first, we need to find the evaluation that we want to send. So some of you will have already seen this one before because I do tend to use it. Lizzie Wears Red, there we go. That's one of my own tester evaluations. Okay, so just to make sure you're aware, this evaluation is one that I've created and it has false data in it. Okay, so I'm not, not using anybody's actual evaluation. Okay, so here we are in New Tester, Lizzie Wears Red. Okay, so I've got my 3 surveys, as many of you will have, and they've all been completed appropriately. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to report. And now again, this is something that a lot of you will have already seen before. This is the reporting dashboard, we call it, and there are many graphs available here for you to use. They're all available in the left-hand side down here. You can see we've got some demographics in there. Okay, so you can go through this at your leisure. But what I really want to draw your attention to today is this button over here, Prepare Insights Report. Okay, so if everything has been set up correctly and filled out appropriately, then you will be able to generate an Insights Report. So let's click on this. Okay, so as we can now see, it has loaded, and you've got the evaluation title at the top, New Tester, Lizzie Wears Red, and on the right hand side you'll have your organisation name. Okay, so this is Culture Counts UK because that's the name of the organisation that I created it under. We've got these tags here, so performance, theatre and Brighton, so type, art form and location, and I added those on the properties tab at the beginning of the evaluation. We've talked about it a few times, but this is where it will populate. Okay, it just gives a little bit of context really about your event that you were evaluating, and the same here as well in the attendance section. Okay, so I'm not going to go through each bit in too much depth, but I will just give you a little bit of an overview, okay? So, the first thing I'm going to mention are the dimension averages. Okay, so you've all seen them presented in that bar graph format, and now here they are in a radar chart. Okay, so a radar chart is, well, it's a chart just like this, and basically the center point is 0, the outer point is 100, and then wherever the mean average score is will get plotted. Okay, so if everything scored the absolute top mark of 100 across the board, then you would expect it to be a perfect hexagon. Okay, of course that's highly unlikely, and as you can see in my example here, there is a variety of different responses. Okay, but so the first one, this is a comparison between the self-prior scores, so that's the objective setting bit, and the public score. Okay, so you can see that the green hexagon is the public and the grey is the self. Okay, and then if I just scroll down a little bit here, you see the same idea, so a radar chart again, but this time it is the self-objective still, so the grey, but this time it's versus the peer score. So again, you can see that in the purple. Okay, and then these 3 here, I don't know if you remember that there are the six dimension questions that Arts Council have asked you to use across all surveys, so peer, self and public. and those dimensions are reflected in the hexagon. And then there are the additional 3 for peer and self only, and those are reflected in this triangle. Okay, so over here on the stats section, we've got the highest public mean average and the lowest public mean average, the total number of assessors, the total attendance number. So on that, the attendance number, you pop that into the system in the properties section as well. Okay. And on that, I would just like to mention, please do make sure that you pop in the attendance of the bit that you were surveying. So say it was a 4-week run and you only surveyed the first week using the Impact and Insight Toolkit, then only put in the attendance number for that 1 week, okay? Because this figure is then used to calculate the margin of error associated with the mean averages. And so obviously if you put in a 4-week attendance total, then that will really it just won't be very reflective, okay? So yes, I will talk back about that in just a minute. So we have down here, when I scroll down, we've got the public demographics. So again, you will know that in your public survey, there are 3 questions built in. There's the gender, age, and postcode questions. And this is where they get graphed, okay, and presented. Now, just so that you know, in order for them to appear in your insights report, just like this, then the questions need to be exactly as they currently are, okay, in the template. So you can't go changing the language or changing the style, so you can't change it into a drop. For example, the age, at the moment, it's enter a number, enter your age. If you were to change it to a drop down, then it wouldn't populate, okay? So it is all automated, and it's all designed so that the Arts Council mandatory evaluation template speaks directly to this insights report. Okay. If I carry on scrolling. And this is something that you're a little bit more familiar with seeing. So it's the bar chart idea. So we've got the self prior, so the objective setting, and then we've got the peer and the public mean averages. Okay. So, and the 6 dimensions that are used across the board are displayed here, and the 3 additional ones for self and peer are here. Now, this is a section here that I would really like to encourage you to utilise. So this box is a free text box for you to write up to 250 words about what your creative intentions were on the piece of work that you've evaluated. Okay, so it might be that there were maybe 2 out of the 6 dimensions you felt really spoke to your event, and you might want to say that actually those 2, and it's reflected in your self prior scores, perhaps, that those 2 were going to be, the ones you were really going to focus on. Of course, it could also be about the audience. So if you were looking to for this to be embraced more by children and young people, anything like that, really. Okay, so you can use this box up to 250 words with your creative intentions. Okay, so this here is looking a little bit more at the public scores. So we speak about the mean average quite a lot, okay? And that mean average is displayed in the dark blob in the middle, okay? Well, pretty much the middle of each one. And then you should see that the left-hand side figure and the right-hand side, that's the lower quartile and the upper quartile. And so this displays the interquartile range. So for those of you that don't know, the interquartile range basically shows you where 50% of your audience has scored the work. Okay, so it'd be like the middle 50% was all between, in Captivation's case, 66 and 81. Okay, and then that can also help you to see how disparate the responses were. So, for instance, distinctiveness, we can see here the responses I feel were quite were quite disparate, and maybe my audience was quite divided because 50% of the responses were between 46 and 70. So, and that's quite a large range really. And again, that is reflected in the margin of error down the right-hand side. And it's a similar idea that basically the higher the number here, the higher the number, then the more spread out your results are. Okay, so whereas if we look at, let's say, this one, firstly you can see it's got a margin of error of 4%, which indicates that it is pretty low down. And then also, if you actually even just look at the bar itself, you can see that it's pretty short. So don't get me wrong, they are not exactly the same. I'm not saying they are the same, but they are both indications of how representative the mean average is of your whole total audience. Okay, so then over here on the right hand side, again, we have an insights section. And again, you've got 250 words to talk about what you learned from this evaluation. Okay, so again, do make the most of it. It's there. Please use it. Was there anything that surprised you? Was it what you expected? And is there anything that you're going to take away from this and that may inform programming or practice in the future? And when I scroll down as well here, I would just like to also mention that we have a handy sort of glossary really here. So in case you wanted reminding of what the different dimension statements were, they're presented here for you. And here we have some information more about margin of error, the quartiles, interquartile range, and if you see NA, what that means. And then you also get a little bit more information about radar charts themselves. Okay, so then if you were going to submit this report, so say you have filled in your two boxes, your two free text boxes, and you've understood your data that's there, you can click on submit, which I will do now to show you. Okay, so now that I've clicked submit, I've had this pop-up appear. And basically, if I were to then go and click OK on this pop-up, the data that is underpinning this insights report will go to Arts Council. Okay, so it won't share the actual PDF that's been produced. Okay, that won't be shared with them automatically. But what will be shared is the data that is underpinning the report. Okay, so if I were to click on OK, which I won't do because I don't want to go and skew the results, the aggregate data set. If I were to click OK, then the underpinning data would go to Arts Council, and then I would have the opportunity to save this as a PDF, and I would then need to email it to my relationship manager. And of course, when you send it to your relationship manager, you can attach any other information that you wish to do so, okay? So it might be that you actually used additional questions when you used the Culture Counts platform and you did your Toolkit surveys, okay? So you will have noticed that this insights report only pulls over the mandatory elements, okay? And it might be that you have asked a couple of your own questions and you want to include those. And by all means, please do download the graphs that are produced there and send those as well to your relationship manager. Basically, it is up to you if you want to add more, okay? So you are not limited in any way. This is just the Arts Council's mandatory requirements, okay? And on that note, I would just like to mention the time frame, okay? So Arts Council have asked that you submit an evaluation within 4 weeks of it having taken place, okay? And you will need to have submitted 4 of these reports by the end of the financial year, okay? You will then be doing a summary report, which is sort of a combination really. So taking all the 4 that you've submitted and doing a bit of a a bit of a combo report, if you like, and that will be in the summer. Okay, so summer of next year. So yes, so those are the sort of dates really that you should be working towards. And so yes, I hope this has been helpful and given you a little bit of information into the Insights report. If you do need any further assistance, please do get in touch. Yes, so thank you very much. I hope it's been useful, and I'm sure I will speak to you very soon. Thank you.